Hello and welcome to the 11th installment of Cincy Rim's Roll Call. I'm Adam Visnick, your host, and today we're once again diving deep into the world of risk and insurance management. Today, let's unravel the journey, challenges, and victories that our next guest has encountered. Please join me in welcoming CJ Hyers. CJ, thanks for coming on. How are you?
Adam, thanks. I'm great. Happy to be here.
Glad to have you. And I love starting off our conversations with how people got started in the risk and insurance management, where I've done a little research on my end, but I'd love to kick it over to you and tell me how you got started in your career, CJ.
Oh, how I got started in the career is I want to say it's unique, but it's really not. It's kind of that generic. I, in a way, fell into it. For me, it started back when I was in college. I went to the University of Mississippi, go Rebels, and I had taken just an introduction to risk management and insurance class. And really, for me, it kind of fell into place when I saw the passion that my professors had for the subject matter.
Mhm.
Uh, a lot of it was kind of, hey, this is a really great industry. Like, and even though we don't work directly into the industry, we want to build you to be better within the industry. And knowing their commitment and just kind of how much they believed in everything that the industry had to offer and all of the potential that there was for us students really was kind of what lit my fire. Uh, I remember the first day of class, everybody went around and it was, why are you here? And a lot of people were just because, well, it was an easy elective. You had a couple people that were like, my parents are in this. And then it was, well, how did your parents get into it? And it was, well, they fell into it. And for me, I kind of laughed because I'm like, that was honestly how I was going through college. It was, I'm just falling into these classes, trying to figure out what's going to stick. And ironically enough, this stuck.
And this is so interesting. We on this channel, or at least these interviews, there's only a couple people that actually started out in, let's call it, the risk and insurance
Yeah.
management collegiate degree. There's a college degree, and a
Yeah.
lot of the people from UC have described their experience with that. Tell me a little bit more about that class. What was it called actually? And then, like, what did you gain from your knowledge having learned that class, and what sparked you to get to the next level potentially down the road on that?
So the program itself, it's the risk and insurance management program. At the time, relatively small and new. I think there were only a handful of us that were actually declared as majors.
Mhm.
Um,
Wow.
and that honestly, you can watch it grow through the 3 years that I was actively in it. Um,
Wow.
and now it's a much bigger program than I even imagined it would have been at the time. Uh, but it was for me, I guess the kickoff of it was outside of seeing the passion for the professors, it was knowing the potential.
Mhm.
For me, I'm always a person that love the potential, love to see kind of the big picture and how I can make an impact and how I can leave an impact nonetheless. And I really thought that this was kind of the mark that I could make.
Mhm.
Uh, Falling into it kind of happened because
Right.
I didn't love it, but I saw the setup and I was like, okay, I can get behind this. This is all stuff that's relevant not only to my life but to business. It's going to give me the knowledge that I need to go either this route if I stay, or I can diverge into a different route if I need to, and just make it happen.
Mhm. Take me back though. Tell me a little bit more about your first move, let's say out of college. You weren't right into risk and insurance management.
Yeah.
You're taking that class, but what was your first
Good.
job to that got you eventually to that space where you're in now?
So my first job, ironically, was a sales job for an insurance company. I worked for State Farm Insurance. I took the leap and moved to a very small town in the Mississippi Delta. Um, Knew nobody, but I was like, hey, it's something once again that stuck. I think that's kind of the theme around here is it just kind of sticks. And I said, I know nobody, but let's give it a shot and see what happens. Uh, did not work out as great as I had hoped, but it definitely was the setup for kind of the next few moves down the line for me, which got me ultimately to where I am. So I'm thankful for the first step. As rough of a time as it could have been. But I definitely made relationships through that journey that are keystone still today, or not even keystone, but still um, major parts of my life, and that I'm very thankful for because they got me here.
Okay, wonderful. And now you're at Mercy Health Bon Secours.
Yep.
and your title is risk manager, and insurance manager there.
Yep.
In layman's terms, break that down. Tell me what that looks like on a daily basis and kind of the high level as well.
Yeah, so high level, it is more or less I help manage the commercial insurance program as well as our self-insurance program. For those that don't know, a lot of big corporations do choose to take a self-insurance route. Essentially, we're investing funds in a captive offshore, and that helps protect our organization as a whole from a bunch of different risks, primarily in like general liability, professional liability. But the way that captives work is you can have them insure pretty much any risk that you can think of as long as you can finance it.
And even further, go even further for me
Yeah.
and the audience. Captives. Describe that. Heard of that term thrown around a lot. Give me a little bit more for that.
So a captive is honestly, it's one of the most fun parts of the insurance industry, I like to think, because it is
Oh,
what you
really?
make. Yeah, it is what you make it. If
Okay.
you have a problem and you know it's a problem, you can find a way to build a cell in a captive to make it. And essentially, a captive is one operating name, and there are cells that you can put within it to fund these certain projects, fund these like fund claims, and essentially like you can fund self-insured retentions. It is kind of what you make of it, which is what's so great about them, because everybody knows you've got your insurance policy that a company can write for you, but this is you get the opportunity to write your own.
Amazing. And what's the advantage of having the opportunity to write your own policy versus using an outside party to do that?
I think the major benefit of that is that you get to write what you need coverage for, essentially. There's companies that can claim to give you everything under the sun, but I think anybody that's got a self-insured captive will tell you is that it's coverage that is tailored for what we need.
So interesting. Now, we talked about how you got started in the Mississippi. You went to Ole Miss. You got to a little city in Mississippi, but that wasn't what got you to Cincinnati. Tell me a little bit about what things or what growth opportunities got you to Cincinnati.
So honestly, the driver that got me back to Cincinnati was the fact that my family was here. Uh, that being said, I got back here because of networking and a connection that we did have. Uh, Starting from there, it was one thing. Kind of after the next, as I got to know people, opportunities started to open up. I kind of transitioned from the sales world into more of an administrative role. And that, for me, the first few years of my career were kind of finding my path and finding out what I liked.
Mhm.
Uh, which looking back on it was incredibly beneficial because I did learn skills that have helped me today. I remember transitioning from my first sales job here in Cincinnati over to more of a customer service role at an insurance agency in Kenwood. And it opened the doors because of all these people that I, again, was continuing to get to meet. As I said, networking is one of the things that I attribute part of my success to the most is getting to know people and getting to know those opportunities. Uh, and from there, it kind of blossomed. I got to shake hands. I got to talk to people. I got to connect with our customers in the agency, and that led me down the next couple of steps. Ultimately, uh, the two things that I attribute outside of networking most are going to be the education that I received. I went to Xavier for my MBA, and I had a lot of great support from there. But also, I was in contact with recruiters, and I never said no to any message or opportunity that I would have gotten. And if I had, I wouldn't have been here. I'm somebody that if you say, "Hey, do you want to have a conversation?" It's going to be a yes from me.
Great.
Much to my demise or much to my success is it's just one of those things. I'm always open to it. So I would say always have the conversation, never say no, and eventually you'll land where you're supposed to be.
That's a great positive attitude towards networking. I think a lot of people that do watch this, even though it's on social media,
Right.
might be sitting in the background, myself included, saying, you know what, sometimes I don't want to go have coffee. I'd rather sit in my sweatpants and work from home, and that's perfectly fine. And obviously, this is for Cincy Rims, an association where we do meet periodically. We have one coming up here in January 24th. So that's in a couple days. By the time this is out, though, it'll probably be after the fact. But nonetheless, there's going to be a huge amount of people there. And Cincy Rims is an active association where networking is key. CJ, you and I both met at the holiday party in person and had a great time there.
Yeah.
But these sounds like it sounds like there's a lot of things that have led to that success, networking and education being one. You mentioned though, in that networking space, some of the people that you met, you got to actually shake hands with people, look them in the eye. Who are some of the people that did help you along the way that maybe considered mentors? If so, what are their names? And, tell me a little bit how you got to know them and how they helped.
Yeah. As far as I don't know if mentor is necessarily the right word. I have people that have inspired me just because I've seen their success and kind of seen that they've gone through the struggle that we all go through. I know everybody likes to, especially with this being something for social media, it's one of those everybody only sees kind of what you want them to see. Nobody talks about
Mhm.
like this has been really tough for me, or like I was going through the trenches when it looked like here I was it was all rainbows and butterflies. So
Yeah,
uh it's been all of those people that I've met along the path that have kept it real, for lack of better terms.
yeah.
Uh, the one that has really kind of been my biggest supporter and cheerleader through it all has been actually it was my trainer at Cincinnati Insurance Companies, Christy Clark. She's phenomenal. She has always been one of my biggest hype people through every step of my career. She's actually the one that encouraged me to take the interview for Cincinnati, or not for Cincinnati, for Mercy Health, when I was like, I'm just really not sure. Like, I don't know what I should do. And she was like, go for it. At the end of the day, she was go for it. What do
Wow.
you have to lose? Nothing. I was my own biggest obstacle in that moment. And I'm usually not a person to just stop and stand in my own way, but I was like, this is a complete shift from insurance to healthcare, not knowing how much my insurance knowledge would help me in this.
No, that's super interesting that she would kind of push you out the door, get you out of
Yeah,
your comfort zone to jump ship and go to a different company altogether in a different space.
yeah.
That seems like a pretty big comfort zone moment. How did you handle that going from Cincinnati Insurance to the health space altogether? What kind of things happened that changed you?
It was a lot of sleepless nights at first, for sure, because I was a complete 180. I remember thinking, am I even equipped to do this? It was almost that imposter syndrome that everybody gets. Like, why did they see this in me? Why am I the one? Like, and I think I overcame it by saying, clearly they saw something that I don't see. And that's going to be my biggest asset is I got to figure out what did they see and how can I capitalize on that and make sure that I prove my value and show them how smart and intelligent I am and that I was the best fit for this job because I must have sold myself at some point.
They saw something in you and they
Yeah,
they threw you the reins and they knew you'd figure out the learning curve, get acclimated,
exactly.
and get the job done. At the same
Exactly.
time, what were the things on top of all the things that we've talked about? What were the things that you gained along the way in your career that helped you to get to that space so that you could confidently go in there, knowing there's a little bit of that imposter syndrome in the background. But what
Yeah.
were the things that like, you know what, I really can do this. I do have the experience. Here's what I've done, and here's how I can defeat any obstacles that are in my way for this new job.
Yeah. For me, it was always, well, I've showed up every day. It's been regardless of whether I've learned something or been refreshed on something, I've showed up. It's every day is a new day and a new challenge. It's just about how you want to go ahead and take it on. Um, for me, quitting wasn't an option. It's not an option regardless of what I need to learn. Um, I'm gonna find a way to learn it. There are so many great resources out there through not just Cincy Rims, but also Rims as a national organization.
Mhm.
Pretty much anywhere. If you want to look for it, it's out there. And I fully support people that use education to their benefit because I feel like it's such untapped potential. Like
Mhm.
it, call me a nerd, but like the books that I read are like How to Master Catastrophic Risk, like I read how to master market cycles. Like I try to use my knowledge as best to kind of not just do it for such a specific line item, but to
Mhm.
kind of say, okay, I know about this in this capacity, but let's throw it into this one and see how it's going to change. And it's broadening that horizon.
Super inspirational. What I heard a lot, and I can resonate with, I know our audience can, is Sometimes it's just not quitting. It's if you
Yeah,
continue to show up to work every day, say
yeah,
yes to that networking meeting, say
yeah,
yes to picking up a book that nobody else has read or only a handful of people have read. That way you have a breadth of knowledge that nobody else does. And when time comes, you're the expert in the space, and people, whether it's above you, below you, laterally, will consider you an expert. And it
yeah,
sounds like that's what you're doing. Plus, you have the background knowledge from different arenas, not just
yeah.
insurance, but the sales side, operations, and admin. So you come to Mercy Health with the breadth of experience in different worlds. And I think that's obviously the reason why they
Yeah.
picked you out of the crowd to do that.
Saying obviously hindsight's 2020, and now I'm
Right.
like, yeah, I can kind of see where I would have stuck out a little bit, but
Yeah.
not knowing my competition. But
Yeah. 100%. And what kind of challenges are you as a company facing? We see, because I'm here locally in Cincinnati, I make my way to Kings nowadays.
absolutely.
And at Kings, they have a huge multi-$100 million complex that's opening. And that's not unique for hospitals. It's a continuing growth opportunity for the medical world, but they're putting in a huge facility in Kings. Has that played a part in what you do on a daily basis? And if not, what other challenges do you see here in the near future?
So health with as dynamic as healthcare is, a lot of the challenges we face are not just the people part of what we do, it's also the behind the scenes. A lot of kind of my focus lately and over the last year has been with how cyber attacks are playing into things that we touch. A lot of new machines and new devices are all connected through the Internet of Things. It's
Mhm.
one of those like, okay, we've not always had this, but what happens if a catastrophic event happens? What if somebody does manage to get in, as great as firewalls can be and protections and safeguards? It's what do we do? Are people equipped to manually administer? Are they equipped to respond accordingly? Do we have proper plans in place? It's thinking of what's the absolute worst case scenario that could happen if it happens, crossing our fingers that it never does.
100%. This is something I think on the minds of a lot of risk managers and has been for many years with the constant threats from around the world, not let alone internally. And knowing that Mercy Health has such a large geographic footprint,
Yeah,
plus they're connected, like you said, to the internet across the board. I don't envy that position, but I
yeah.
understand how valuable it is.
Yeah.
So,
And it's a whole team that it's really a whole team effort. We have so many different experts internally and externally that we collaborate with and coordinate with on so many different things that it's as daunting as it can sound. It's made so much better because we are all focused on that one goal of protecting our mission, protecting our people, and making sure that we are still giving that excellent standard of care across the board to everyone.
and that's great to hear. I love that. And it's been fantastic answers from you thus far. And I don't want to be doomsdayish on this, but it's true. I mean, when you're a risk manager in this space, you kind
It
of
sits in your
understand.
mind at all times.
Sadly, it's in the background there, just
Yeah,
waiting. But it's it's part of the job, and
absolutely. That's why we're
we'll
here.
100%. And we'll make light of things here with our final question. The answers you've provided have been amazing. I think our audience could get great value out of this kind of stuff, especially those incoming as well as those mid-career and beyond. I
Absolutely.
mean, it seems the theme here is always it's been like a quote unquote quixotic nature where we're kind of meandering through to get to where you are today. And it's always glad to meet people at the point in their career where they're successful, or even if they don't feel they're successful, we
Yeah.
believe they are. And it's great to talk to people like you, CJ, for that. So,
Thank
with
you.
that said, we're on to the Cincy Rims rapid fire section. We'll throw you some softball questions, just a
Cool.
couple of them. Even though you're not from Cincinnati originally, you have some heart and soul here, as well as
Absolutely.
family. You ready for that portion?
Let's do it.
All right. First question, always crucial: Gold Star or Skyline Chili?
So Skyline only because it's the only one that I've had. And it's on very rare occasion as somebody I grew up primarily in like the Midwest.
Mhm.
So when I heard chili, I had high expectations. No offense.
Yeah,
Sadly let down.
and it lets you down.
It's definitely a sauce, whatever, as opposed to what everybody else says, it's a sauce. But if I had to pick, it would be Skyline.
Fair enough. We won't call blasphemy on that take, but that's hey, that's understandable. We hear it all the time. All right. And what high school did you go to, CJ?
So I graduated from Cedar Falls High School
Cedar
in
Falls,
in Cedar Falls, Iowa.
Iowa. All right.
Yeah,
Wonderful. And knowing that you're from the Iowa area, the Midwest,
yeah,
do you have an affinity for the Cincinnati teams, Reds, Bengals, FCC? Could you pick any of those out of the hat as a
abs-
fan, as a favorite for you?
absolutely. I love the Bengals, love the Reds. Even though I did kind of grow up with the Cubs and the Bears, I'll always support the teams in the city where I live. You can catch me down at the Bengals games on occasion. They're a blast. It's a great time.
And of course, FC sponsored by Mercy Health, right on the front of
Yes,
their jerseys too. That's a little plug for Mercy Health. Great sponsorship
absolutely.
there.
Absolutely. Make sure you go check out a game because I've heard they're great. I'm not a huge soccer fan, but I have a bunch of friends that are, and they say it's always a blast.
Yeah, absolutely. Great stadium, great team.
Absolutely.
Wonderful. CJ, it's been a pleasure having you on as our guest on Cincy Rim's Roll Call. Again, my name's Adam Visnick. It's been a pleasure. Thanks for allowing me to be your host. We'll catch you next time. Thanks, CJ.
Thanks, Adam. Appreciate it.
Take care.